Hey guys, welcome back to Reserved Investments on YouTube. I am recording this video at 1:34 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so I don't know if that's late evening or early morning. I'll let you guys decide, but thank you for joining me nonetheless. Today we are going to talk about an article that first premiered on CNBC on March 11th, 2020. Yes, this article is almost 3 years old, but it ties nicely into what we've been talking about lately on this particular YouTube channel. And for those unaware, this is a collectible finance channel. Please do not come to me and tell me about the first time you discovered Star Wars, or the first time your grandfather sat down with you and played with your Lionel train, or the first time you discovered Pokemon, or Nintendo, or Magic the Gathering, or comic books, whatever it is. I don't care, because this is a collectible finance channel. We talk about antiques and collectibles and how they relate to finance, business, and economics. Specifically, this channel is devoted to alternate asset investing in the antiques and collectibles trade. If you like that, great. Stick around. Feel free to subscribe. Feel free to leave some comments for me. If that offends you, if you are one of the Timmies that come to me and say, I don't like the fact that your channel is solely devoted to collectible finance, guess what? Simply leave. You have other options. Nothing's keeping you here. So without further ado, let's get into this article. And for the record, I will be putting a link to this article in the video description below, just in case you want to read it in its entirety. What we are going to do is I'm going to read it in its entirety, and I'm going to give you my analysis of it, because I think this really hits a lot of the key points that I've been making on this channel. When we talk about the time value of money, when we talk about opportunity cost, when we talk about investing in the S&P 500 index fund versus that of collectibles, antiques, when we talk about how these markets work, this article really boils it down. It's an excellent piece. The name of the article is A 38-Year-Old Looks Back on Her Biggest Money Mistake. I could have been nearly $40,000 richer today. So let's get into the subject matter. And spoiler alert, this has to do with collecting and investing in luxury handbags. This obviously is about a now close to middle-aged woman, but as you're going to see in this article, when this mistake occurred, she was in her late 20s. So let's start reading the article in full. If there's anything I've learned from my mother, it's that regardless of what money mistakes you make, no matter how foolish they are, life goes on. The direction you go after the realization is entirely up to you. The biggest mistake I ever made took place in 2010 when I was in my late 20s. After maxing out my retirement accounts, which I'm sure a lot of you out there are not doing, working a full-time job, and picking up multiple side hustles, I had accumulated well over $100,000 in savings. Now, at this point, I have to pause, and I have to say to a lot of you guys that come to me and say, Sean, I can't do it. I'll never have $100,000. This young woman did it by her late 20s, okay? She has over $100,000 in savings. So back to the article. I convinced myself that in return for being so responsible with my money, I could afford to spend $2,850 on a Chanel handbag. Now, for those that do not understand the luxury handbag market, there's pretty much a couple of key names that take top bidding in most auctions of these handbags that sell spectacular amounts on the secondary market. Chanel is one of them. The gold standard by far is Hermes Birkin bags. You can see Hermes Birkin bags selling for six figures or more in certain instances. As a matter of fact, I believe Kim Kardashian has a collection of Hermes Birkin bags, high-end Hermes Birkin bags. We're talking the ones that sell $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 or more a piece. There are some low-end ones on that spectrum. You can find certain Hermes Birkin bags that sell anywhere from, I think, like $8,500 on up. So that is definitely the gold standard. Chanel is a good name. So is Coach. So is Prada. So there are different makers of a lot of these luxury handbags that both young women and even middle-aged women love to collect. So back to the article. Plus, it was a collectible investment. The value of a classic medium-sized Chanel flat bag had only increased in value since its release in 1955. So I knew that a well-timed purchase and resale could bring in a sizable profit. Around the same time, however, I was just starting to invest in stocks. Now, this is something that I really disagree with because she's going from $100,000 in savings right away to investing in individual stocks. In my opinion, and again, I'm not here to give financial advice, I'm just here to tell you how I think about these markets. She would have been better off building a well-diversified portfolio made up of either index funds, mutual funds, ETFs, or the like. Then, once she gets established, once she gets used to that, she could then branch out a little bit and go into individual stocks. I do not agree that she went from $100,000 in savings right into individual stocks. Just my assessment. Back to the article. Amazon seemed like a smart long-term investment. The company's growth was strong, and it was moving into every imaginable type of product, media, and service. Why not spend that $2,850 on Amazon stock instead? A financial mentor suggested. I gave it a lot of thought, but was ultimately unable to resist the appeal of owning something I could enjoy immediately. Looking back, I regret my decision for many reasons. And it's very interesting, guys, because I do want to state this. You're going to see in a bit, this handbag accelerated in value. The problem was, when we compare the gains that she made in this market, as you're going to see, the luxury handbag market, it doesn't compare to what she would have made by buying either Amazon stock at this time or going into a similar financial investment instead. And that's really the core crux of what I preach on this particular channel. To start, if I had followed my mentor's advice and trusted Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos' relentless will to dominate the market, I could have been nearly $40,000 richer today. Second, I slowly developed a severely bad spending habit. It wasn't enough for me to just have one handbag. So a few months later, I bought another. Then several more months went by, and I decided that I absolutely needed a third. Just like that, my journey down the slippery slope of expensive handbags had begun. And how many times do I interact with collectors where they go, Sean, you don't understand, this comic book's going to the moon. Then they buy another comic book and another comic book. And before you know it, they spent $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 on comic books. And they have nothing else put away. They have no investments. They have no other assets. They have specifically dumb debt, whether it be a car payment, credit card bills. They're not financially established. Investing in the antiques and collectibles trade, guys, rewards the people who are financially established. Those that have the money and the means to get into these markets and who are not completely emotionally attached to these items. Meaning, when they see the price goes up, they can sell into the market right away with no regret. A lot of you guys watching this channel, to be fair, I'm a collector as well. I know that a lot of you are collectors. You have an emotional attachment to these items. You can't just pull the trigger and sell some of these items when the price immediately rises. And that's a problem if you're calling it an investment. An investment, the best investments are devoid of emotion. Let me just state that up front. So let's go back to the article. Instead of putting my money into places where it would have had the opportunity to compound, grow, and create more wealth for me over time, I was reducing how much I put into my savings each month just to find another handbag in another fabulous color. The more I bought, the less I used them. I battled with the guilt of excessiveness. I would go back and forth in my mind about why I deserved them and why I needed them and how I had a good amount of savings anyway. And there's an excellent quote here that says, studies have found that buying luxury items can open floodgates to purchasing even more stuff, which is the perfect recipe for credit card debt. And you guys need to understand that. And this all fits together, guys. You know, one thing that I do on this channel, I haven't done too many talking points on this as of late, but I do talk about investing in collectibles. I talk about finance. I talk about dating. I talk about relationships. I talk about career paths because it's all connected, guys. There's a lot of you out there. Well, I got to get the Rolex. Then you got to get a luxury car. Then you got to get, the clothes to match. And before you know it, you are spending a lot of money on this stuff. And some of you, I hate to say this, you can't afford to do it. You don't understand what it's doing to your future. It's a big difference. If you're sitting on a net worth at the age of 30 or 40 of $250,000, $500,000, $750,000, $1 million or more, you then have the money, some of the money, to play in some of these markets. But a lot of you guys come to me, you say, hey, Sean, I want to get the Rolex, I want to get the Mercedes, I want to have money. And I ask you, well, where are you at in the spectrum? And you tell me, well, you don't think you'll ever get to $100,000. Well, if you can't even get to $100,000, you shouldn't be buying a Rolex, you shouldn't be buying a Mercedes. None of that, guys. None of that. Back to the article. It wasn't until a couple of years later that I finally saw the reality of my financial situation. My savings had decreased significantly, and I now had tens of thousands of dollars worth of handbags in my closet for no good reason. And for the men watching this particular video, because I know 80% of my audience is made up of men, with 20% being women, those of you could substitute the word handbags with action figures, comic books, rare coins, Pokemon cards, Magic the Gathering, whatever it is that fits this. You could substitute handbags with any of those particular collectible products. And it's the same scenario, guys. It is the same scenario. Back to the article. I started refocusing my attention on my early retirement plan, and with great difficulty, because she's emotionally attached, sold all my handbags through eBay and various consignment stores. Luckily, I was able to sell a few for close to what I paid for them, and even more for some. So she did generate a profit in some of these. Thanks to Chanel's crazy price increases, I sold that very first handbag for $5,700. Going back earlier in the article, she paid $2,850. So she almost doubled her money on that particular, actually she did double her money on that particular item. Still, it took too much time and effort. And when you factor in reseller fees, the return doesn't even come close to $39,846.50, which is what she would have had if she would have put that $2,850 at that particular time. This is back in 2010. Remember that, guys, in Amazon stock. And for the record, again, I do not recommend Amazon stock right now. If you're getting that out of this video, please get it out of your head. I am not recommending Amazon stock in this particular video as an investment, okay? Just want to make that very clear. Going back to the article, when it comes to money mistakes, this one takes the cake for me. I'm not suggesting that buying luxury items are always a bad idea, but it should never be done at the expense of your financial goals. Additionally, studies have found that buying luxury items can open the floodgates to purchasing even more stuff, which is the perfect recipe for credit card debt, as I've already said. But I'm done crying over spilled milk. Now, instead of letting my money just sit in the closet, pun intended, I'm putting it back to work by continuously saving and investing for the sake of my current and future self. Do you guys understand what this article is about? I know there's going to be Timmies, Kimmies, and Poindexters. The minute they hear luxury handbags or collectible handbags, they're going to tune this video out. And ironically, I've said this before, I'll say it again before I end this video, you can substitute handbag for any other collecting category, whether it be rare coins, comic books, Magic the Gathering, video games, Pokemon cards, toys, whatever it is, you can substitute the word handbags for that collecting category. And this article will apply directly to almost all of you watching this video right now. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts. I'm going to put a link to this original article in the video description below. Please, if this does interest you, take the time to read it. Thank you and have a good night.